Hello everyone, No One of Consequence here, back again with a new video. This is another episode in the series which I call my Game Collection Showcase, in which I highlight a particularly rare item in my Dungeons & Dragons collection. In this video, I will talk about my copy of the original version of the adventure module, The Lost Caverns of Tsojconth. So here's a full-page scan of the adventure module cover, although this is not my copy. I found this pic somewhere on the internet. As you can see, it was published by Metro Detroit Gamers in 1976. This module was the tournament adventure used at the WinterCon 5 game convention. It is believed that approximately 300 copies of this module were printed, which is similar to other early tournament adventure modules. It was distributed as 8 loose-leaf double-sided pages within a folded outer cover, which was cardstock, and it was all contained in a Ziploc baggie. It was not bound. Now, The Lost Caverns was the second adventure module ever published for the Dungeons & Dragons game, the first one being this one, The Palace of the Vampire Queen. In 1982, the adventure was rewritten, greatly expanded, and re-released by TSR as Dungeon Module S4, The Lost Caverns of Tsojconth. And when I say expanded, it really was expanded. It increased from the original 8 loose-leaf pages to 2 32-page booklets. And also, just as a minor detail, note the change in spelling of Tsojconth, where the original, it was written with an O, whereas in the new version it was written with an A. Okay, so here is a photo of my copy of the module's cover, and as you can see, it's very clean and it's in excellent condition given the fact that it's almost 50 years old. Now, because this is a tournament module, it includes detailed instructions for the dungeon master on how to run it. For example, as you can see pointed out here, to help ensure fairness for all the teams, you can see that it instructs the Dungeon Master to simply assign average damage for all successful attacks rather than it being rolled for. And if you look closely, you can see that that applies not only to the player character attacks, but also to monster attacks as well. And on this page, you can see how different types of healing potions are assigned specific amounts of hit points to be healed when they're consumed. And then it goes on to offer guidelines to the Dungeon Master on how to select the best player in their particular game, and it's really interesting. You can see outlined here, listed here, active before passive, thinking and reasoning before rash, bold before timid, uninjured before wounded, alive before dead, and being a leader as opposed to being a follower. And then it goes on to offer other suggestions like, did the player personally acquire more treasure than the others in the group, and that sort of thing. And then finally we get to the actual text of the adventure. Now, if you look down through these entries for each of the encounter areas, you can see that this adventure could almost be considered what these days would be called a funhouse dungeon. In other words, there doesn't seem to be any real ecological sense to the place. Each chamber or room contains an encounter which exists more or less independently of the rest of the dungeon. And here is the hand-drawn map of the adventure module's upper level. And here are a couple of drawings of monsters which can be encountered in the adventure. Now, I'm sure a lot of it's just nostalgia on my part, but I really do prefer artwork like this over what I think is the insipid pastel illustrations showing slice of life scenes which appear in current day Dungeons and Dragons products. And here is one of the pre-generated player characters which are to be used in tournament play. Now, sorry that this pic is partially out of focus. I took these pics of the module and then I returned it to my safe deposit box before I actually downloaded and looked at the photos. So once I realized that they were partially out of focus, I could not easily retake the pics, so you can still read it though, it's just a little out of focus. And here is a partial view of the roster of monsters which can be found in the adventure. And here is another interesting tool for the Dungeon Master running this as a tournament. You can see this table on the left-hand side, it lists the weapons carried by each tournament character, and then along the top, it shows the monsters found in the module. And the Dungeon Master can take this table and cross-reference and see what exactly must be rolled by a character to score a hit on a monster, depending on which weapon is being employed. And if you look at the center column, you can see how it reflects that gargoyles can only be hit by magic weapons. Now, at the end of the module are some publisher's notes. Highlighted here are the thanks given to Gary Gygax for writing the adventure for the convention's Dungeons & Dragons tournament. And at the bottom, you can see that there were plans to print additional copies of this and other tournament adventure modules. However, that clearly never actually happened due to the rarity of this module today. And then finally, at the end of the module, there's blank space for the Dungeon Master to record their rating notes for each player. Now, fortunately for me, this particular copy of the module was never actually written in. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this module was re-released in 1982. And if you're interested in running the adventure, here's one online resource that you might want to consult. This screenshot is taken from the Greyhawk Online website, and you can see the exact URL at the top of the pic. And I should have mentioned it on the previous slide, but that 1982 version of the module is available on the ttrpg website. And here is another online resource which you might want to consult. These articles can be found on the Greyhawk Grognard website. Now, in 2004, Cancer Co. published this adventure module, Lost Caverns, and it is a semi-parody of the original adventure module. Unfortunately, it is now out of print, so if you want a copy, You'll have to locate a used one for sale somewhere. Or you could try putting your Google food to work, if you know what I mean. Now, in 2016, this 5th edition conversion guide of the original module was released, and it too is available on ttrpg. Now, like I say, this is a conversion guide. It's not the original adventure itself. So you'll still need a copy of the original module to use this product. Now, I do not own an actual copy of this product, so I cannot speak to its quality. I'm just letting you know that it exists. And this 5th edition conversion guide was also released in 2016, and it is also still available on ttrpg. But same thing, I do not actually own a copy of this product, so I cannot speak to its quality. Now, if you want to run the adventure module on a VTT, this map pack was made available on ttrpg in 2018. So you can check that out if you're interested. Now, this publication was released just last year for the Dungeons & Dragons 2024 rule set, the Quests from the Infinite Staircase. And it includes this latest incarnation of the adventure module. Now, again, I do not own a copy of this product, so I cannot speak to its quality or how faithfully it adheres to the original version of the adventure module. I'm just letting you know that it's available out there if you're interested in it. All right, well, that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. Feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And if you know of a good place, please share the video. And anything you can do to help support the channel, I appreciate it. Thanks again. Bye for now.